So what happens when a system that's designed to protect and heal gets pushed to its absolute breaking point? We're going to take a look at exactly that through one man's truly harrowing journey into a mental health crisis.
Let's go to February 13th, 2023. A clinician asks a man named Michael Merriman a pretty direct question. Is he feeling hopeless? And his answer, yes, I am hopeless. Just 4 words. But that one admission kicks off a chain of events that puts an entire system under a microscope.
And that statement right there was the first alarm bell. So let's pinpoint the exact moment the system got the call that this was, quite literally, a life or death situation.
Okay, so the date is February 13th, 2023. And the place? The California Institution for Men. This is where it all starts. Not on the outside, but right inside the very system that's supposed to be providing care.
But here's the thing. The first cry for help didn't actually come from the patient himself. The official record shows his mother called, and she was, and I'm quoting here, very concerned, crying, stating he is suicidal. So it took this desperate plea from someone on the outside to finally get the wheels turning inside the institution.
So, the alarm is raised. What happens next? Well, the system does what it's designed to do. A formal cycle of treatment kicks in, a step-by-step process meant to manage this exact kind of crisis.
But while all that formal procedure is getting started, you have to understand what was actually happening inside this man's head. This is a direct quote from his file. The voices are trying to get me to do things I don't want to do, like bleed. Just wow, a truly terrifying internal battle happening completely separate from all the official paperwork and procedures.
And this is how that raw tear gets translated into the sterile language of the system. We see as official diagnoses, major depressive disorder and multiple substance use disorders covering opioids, alcohol, and methamphetamines, plus an unspecified anxiety disorder. You see how personal suffering gets kind of flattened into these clinical labels.
Okay, so in response to those diagnoses, a very structured plan is put in place. You've got admission to a mental health crisis bed, weekly therapy sessions, medication, group therapy, the whole 9 yards. But look at that last step. He was officially assessed as a severe suicide risk. This is absolutely key. The system knew without a shadow of a doubt just how high the stakes were here.
But here's where things get really concerning. Despite this intensive, structured plan, just look at this timeline. He has a history of suicide attempts, one in 2016, another in 2022. Then, in February 2023, he's admitted to the crisis bed after his mom's call. And then, just 2 months later, while he's still inside the system, another attempt. The cycle it didn't stop, even with all that care.
You know, this one man's story, as tragic as it is really just a symptom of a much, much bigger problem. To really get what's going on, we have to zoom out. We need to look at the bigger picture, California's statewide mental health crisis.
Okay, look at this number. Just let it sink in. Over 9.3 million. 9,398,534. What on earth could that number be?
Well, that is the number of people in California who live in a community that simply doesn't have enough mental health professionals. Think about that. Over 9 million people. So Michael Merriman's story, it didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened right in the middle of this massive statewide shortage of resources.
And that shortage, it has a very real impact on whether people can get help. I mean, look at this. If you live in California, you are 5 times more likely to have to go out of network to get mental health care compared to just regular primary health care. It's not just that access is hard to find, it's that it's deeply, deeply unequal.
And now, this is where the story takes a turn. What started as one person's internal health crisis is about to spill out into the wider world, and the consequences are absolutely devastating. Okay, so fast forward to May 6th, 2024. This is just a little over a year after his mom made that frantic phone call. The bodies of 2 people, Cynthia Duran and Luis Sanchez, were found on a rural property. And just like that, this story transforms from a personal health crisis into a public safety tragedy.
And where did the investigation lead? Right back to the man we've been following. A search warrant was issued for the Facebook account of Michael Merriman in connection with this double homicide. The very same man who was supposed to be getting care inside the system was now a person of interest in a horrific crime on the outside.
So this all brings us to our final point.
And this is where the massive gap between the system's official policies and, well, the harsh reality of the situation becomes painfully clear.
See, if you look at it on paper, the system looks pretty solid. You can find all these official documents from counties all over California, and they show that there are programs for compliance, for public protection, all these rules and regulations that are supposed to cover every possible situation.
And this is the kind of language that system speaks. For example, take the official definition of vital documents from a compliance manual. It's for, and I quote, documents that convey information that critically affects the ability of the customer to make informed decisions. See that? The language is all about procedure. It's sterile. It's focused on process and customers, not people.
Now hold that bureaucratic language in your head and contrast it with this. This is an assessment from Michael Merriman's actual file. It says they believed he would, quote, decompensate and to end his life. He fears being a failure. I mean, that's the disconnect right there. On one hand, you have a system focused on vital documents for a customer, and on the other, you have a human being who is terrified of being a failure and literally wants to die.
And so, at the end of all this, we're left with a really critical question. We've seen one person's crisis unfold inside a much larger system that is itself in crisis. So when procedure becomes the main response to a human emergency, you really have to ask, who is actually being protected?